The NBA trade deadline is fast approaching and is now less than a month away, and the Toronto Raptors no doubt will be looking to cash in on the insane resurgence of Chris Boucher. But what teams will be interested in the Canadian forward, and what can the Raptors actually get for him? Let's get into it. This is Amateur Sports, the YouTube channel dedicated to Toronto Raptors content and videos like this and live streams on the channel. Drop a like if you enjoyed this video along the way, subscribe for more content just like it, and to support the channel even further, check out the merch with the link in the description. I'm rocking the shirt and the white hat in this one. We also have hats in black and stickers as well for you to check out, so support the channel, get some great stuff in return. And hey, we're looking to get some great stuff in return for a certain player on the Raptors here, being Chris Boucher. And all of a sudden, is Chris Boucher now becoming the Toronto Raptors' main trade chip as we head towards that February 6th trade deadline? Because it was supposed to be Bruce Brown. Honestly, Bruce Brown, I might do a full video on that. I stuck up for Bruce Brown last season when he wasn't playing well, coming to a new team, probably not playing healthy. He advocated that he was going to be better this year. He was going to be healthy this year. Well, he's come back and maybe has been worse than last year, even though this is him supposedly playing healthy. I'm done defending this guy. He hasn't played well, but I tell you what, the last few games have been just ridiculous stuff from Chris Boucher, and it comes at the perfect time under the eyes of potential suitors for a trade. Now, I'll preface this by saying I don't really like this being the context for the video. It just kind of is what it is here. I don't like using Chris Boucher playing well, enjoying his basketball, enjoying his time on the court right now. I don't really like using that to say, oh, wow, thank you for playing so well. Now we can get more out of you through a trade. But that's just kind of the situation that presents itself for the Raptors. So apologies in advance for that, but I'm going to have to do this anyway. Chris Boucher, over the last 4 games, has been just on a tear, as I said. It started with, weirdly, the New York Knicks game, where the Raptors had, like, they were competitive enough for the first 3 quarters or so, within touching distance. Like, it's not like the Knicks were beyond the horizon or anything. They certainly were beyond the horizon in the fourth quarter when it almost got to a 30-point game. Chris Boucher comes in for garbage time and makes the game look a lot more respectable on the box score. The Raptors end up losing that one by 14 points in the end, but largely due to Chris Boucher coming in, hitting 2 threes, getting 10 points in just 4 minutes of play. Made it look a lot better for the box score. So rewarded with that good play. I love to see a player come in for a brief stint, a brief cameo, work their ass off, play good basketball, and get rewarded with more play time in the next game. It's just a good model to impose. Like, yeah, you want to get that play time. When you've got your chance, you got to go earn it. And earn it he did. Chris Boucher in the follow-up game against the Cavaliers, the top team in the NBA, played 27 minutes, had 23 points, went 5 of 8 shooting from 3, 9 of 14 from the field. Once again, fantastic, and he's been carrying on ever since. Against the Pistons, 14 points and 5 of 6 shooting, 4 of 5 from 3, and in the incredible win over the Golden State Warriors, 104-101, which was, like, as well as Scottie Barnes played, Chris Boucher won that game for the Raptors with 17 fourth-quarter points, 18 points in total, 7 of 9 shooting from the field, 3 of 5 from 3. I'll touch briefly, like, whoa, only 1 point in the first 3 quarters. For some reason, Chris Boucher playing so well leading up to that game, he barely played in the first 3 quarters, strangely. But got his chance, took it in the fourth quarter, and willed the Raptors to victory. So it's been a stunning sequence of games here for Chris Boucher. Hopefully it can continue, but the Raptors, no doubt, with Chris Boucher in the final year of his contract, the Raptors in a rebuilding year will likely fully commit to a tank at some point if they have not done so already, with Emmanuel quickly strangely missing that Golden State game due to a left hip injury flaring up. No doubt Chris Boucher is a player the Raptors should be looking to trade. And when I did my early trade deadline preview on this channel, there were 2 players in the category of should trade, should try and force a trade to happen. Chris Boucher was in that category alongside Bruce Brown. And my conversation at the time around Chris Boucher was that this is likely a player that's going to have to go for, like, whatever you can get. Like, if you can get a second-round pick for Chris Boucher, you've got to go and take that, because there's just not a lot of value in a player who's out of rotation, not really playing. Well, now things have changed. Now, Chris Boucher is playing really well. And even before this run of games really started, like we had the New York Knicks garbage time game, which sparked an article from Ian Begley, who suggested that there were a few NBA teams that had Chris Boucher on their radar. And specifically, he mentioned that he certainly has fans within the Nuggets organization, hence why Chris Boucher in a Nuggets jersey is on the thumbnail for today's video, because that seems like the most likely of destinations. And we'll talk about why the Denver Nuggets should and could be interested in Chris Boucher, what they can offer, and ultimately, at the end of the video, we'll be discussing what to actually expect from Chris Boucher through a trade, whether it's the Nuggets or whether it's not. So make sure you stick around until the end of the video. So for the Denver Nuggets, it's been a curious season for sure. They haven't exactly been at their best, yet they still find themselves pretty close to the top of the Western Conference. Now, that's bound to happen when you have one of the, let's not mince words here, one of the greatest players of all time on their team in Nikola Jokic. He's a 3-time MVP. He definitely has a case to get a 4th MVP this season. I know he's not the favorite. The favorite right now is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and probably rightfully so, but man, this Nuggets team should not be this good, and the reason they are is because of Nikola Jokic. Anyways, the Nuggets need a bit more reinforcements. They need a little bit more help for their team, and Chris Boucher provides spark off the bench, provides energy. When he's on the top of his game, he provides shooting like he is doing lately, not to this degree where he's making like seemingly 80% of them, but he provides that spark no matter what. With Chris Boucher performances over time, like it's hard to love Chris Boucher. It's hard to hate him because his performances fluctuate so drastically and to such a vast degree. Like he's really right at the top of his powers right now. But man, when Chris Boucher is not playing well, unusable on the floor. But he always comes back up. He always comes back down. It's just up and down all the time for Chris Boucher. So when you see, like me, this is such a negative way to think of it, when I see Chris Boucher playing this well, I love it, but I know that there could be some poor performances around the corner. And when Chris Boucher's not playing well, and I'm upset and saying like he doesn't deserve playtime, I know that he's still got that level in him, and I certainly think he can help off the bench, like 8th, 9th, 10th guy in a rotation for a good team, and maybe the Denver Nuggets see that as well. So what could the Denver Nuggets actually offer? Well, that's the complicated part in any trade, especially in the modern NBA with the modern CBA, all the regulations and rules and aprons and everything, but the Denver Nuggets have something that they can offer the Raptors. Here are the players that would have to be involved in this trade. Looking at the Denver Nuggets contracts here, I mean, let's start off with Chris Boucher here. Chris Boucher, like I said, last year of his contract, Chris Boucher is making just about $11 million. So you have to match that to a certain degree for other teams, and particularly if you're an apron team. You cannot go They cannot take on additional money here. Thankfully, the Raptors can take back additional salary. They have some space left over, especially after waiving Bruno Fernando and clearing up a little bit of cap space and giving a little bit more breathing room towards the luxury tax, which the Raptors are not going to enter. I shouldn't have to say that, but just to let you know, they are not going to go into the luxury tax. Kind of the player that has to be included in this deal is Zeke Naji from the Nuggets, the 5th-year power forward, and another player on the side like Vlatko Čančar. That would probably have to be what the Nuggets are looking to offer in this trade. Zeke Naji, he just got a 4-year extension with the Nuggets worth about $32 million. That's about $8 million per season. It's a descending contract, so it's $8.8 million this year. Eventually, it will become a player option worth $7.5 million. The issue regarding Zeke Naji is that his play time has diminished really on a season-to-season basis other than his rookie season, and it's really diminished this season. He's averaging 4.6 minutes per game in 21 games played. This is a guy that's kind of turned into a garbage time player for this team, not getting minutes. But there's hope for somebody who was drafted 22nd overall in 2020 that maybe this is a player that can find something, and maybe the right team can help this player find something. Well, I don't disagree, and I like Naji going into that draft. It's just Raptors have already invested quite a bit of money into this current team. There's not a lot of additional cap space that can just be forked over for a hopeful player like Zeke Naji, who has never in his NBA career demonstrated that he could really be a reliable three-point shooter. In fact, his three-point shooting numbers have gotten worse on a year-to-year basis with the Nuggets, and it's been horrifically bad this season. And again, limited minutes on the floor, albeit, but that's quite a bit of time to commit to a player who you don't really have a lot of confidence in. But if the Nuggets are going to make this trade, it pretty much has to be Zeke Naji, which, looking into this video, it made me think, are the Nuggets interested in Chris Boucher because they really like him? Maybe partially, but are the Nuggets really more interested in this trade because they see it as an opportunity to get off that Zeke Naji contract? That's kind of what I think this boils down to. So the price the Nuggets would have to pay to make this trade happen in that scenario, well, it's got to be a first-round pick. And it has to be a first-round pick because the Denver Nuggets don't have any second-round picks available for trade. But they do have a first-round pick they can trade, and the only one they can trade due to the Stepien rules is the 2031 first-round pick. So if this trade would have to happen with the Nuggets, the Raptors would have to decide is worth the gamble on Zeke Naji, and they are willing to wait until 2031 to cash in really on the asset being Chris Boucher. Now, what is good about this trade is that you are getting a first, which I'm not convinced any other team would give. As well as Chris Boucher's played lately, I'm not convinced any other team would be willing to give a first-round pick that is sooner. I'm thinking a second-round pick, as I said earlier in the video. So that would have to be the decision here for the Raptors. Because, as I said, at the end of the video, what could other teams offer? It's pretty much going to be salary filler. The Raptors would hope to get salary filler that is expiring. And the Raptors would have to get a second-round pick as a reward for taking on the salary that the other team doesn't want. And in theory, that team gets Chris Boucher, who they would be using a little bit more often than the player they are salary dumping. So, Nuggets, Naji's okay, but do you want to pay him 4 years? Do you want to gamble on that sort of player? Undersized center / power forward? I'm not so sure. Maybe the Raptors see a piece they can work with, but it's not a ton of money, but it's a long-time commitment at that money that just reduces the flexibility going forward for a team that already has a ton of money tied up in Barnes, Quickly, and Barrett. But you get the first-round pick. On the other hand, there's options for that second-round pick to come in maybe now. Ultimately, I was pleasantly surprised by Ian Begley saying there are several teams interested in Chris Boucher, so options could be available for the Raptors, but what is the option that you would take? I think if I had to choose this Nuggets offer, I probably would say no, reluctantly, because that first-round pick, I feel like the Nuggets might be bad in 2031, but I reluctantly probably withhold from that just because of the current financial situation of the Raptors and then having to take on even more with Zeke Naji, as cheap as that contract is. But I don't think I'd be super upset about it. But give me your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. What are you expecting for Chris Boucher? Love to hear it. Make sure you drop a like if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to the channel. We're so close to getting back to 18,000 subscribers after we were there and then the channel got hacked. Let's get back to 18K, and in return, you get great Raptors content, I think, in videos and live stream watch-alongs. Shop the merch to support the channel even further, and I will see you again next time for another video. Keep up to date with all the Raptors trade deadline happenings here with Amateur Hour Sports.